reassembly of your Tokarev pistol can be a little tricky. I'm going to try to demonstrate that for you now. First, you want to start off, of course, by making sure your gun is unloaded. So we'll eject the magazine. That is empty. Hammer back, slide back, and we see that the chamber is empty as well, so we're good to go. We want to lock that slide back, and the thing we want to do first is remove this pin. So to get that out, what we actually need to do, let's take it off safe just in case we need to pull the trigger for any reason. What we want to do is remove this retaining plate right here. And I would recommend that you use a spent shell casing or something non-marring like that. I'm just going to go ahead and use a live round. I think I'll be all right, guys. And we're going to press that to the rear to try to get that off, just like that. Just broke it just enough, and then we're going to press it a little further by catching it on that little piece right there. Now we can get that pin out pretty easily. I'll press it, of course, from this side, and then that pin just slips right out. There it is. And the slide is ready to come off now. At this point, we want to try to retain the spring because the spring does want to flop all over the place. I'll show you what I mean by that right now. As we come out, I'll get my finger over that spring, get it off of the slide, and watch this. Yeah, if you just let it go, the spring goes everywhere. Yeah, it's kind of weird, but that's just one of the characteristics of the gun anyway. You've got a bushing on the front, rotate that 180 degrees, and it comes straight out like that. Your barrel, of course, give that a little jostle, and it comes straight out as well. And there's a close look at the barrel and the inside of the slide and how they made up. Okay, so there's those pieces. We've also got the frame. An interesting thing about the frame is that this entire trigger group, not trigger group, but hammer group, I should call it, or something like that, hammer assembly is probably the right word, comes out just like that. You just pull it, and it comes straight out. There's a close look at that piece as well. You can probably do all the cleaning you need to just by pulling that out, cleaning within there, and you probably don't need to take this down at any point. Of course you can if you choose to. To get it back in, this is the part right here that lines up with these grooves. So you just feed it straight back in like that. Get those grooves lined up so you've got one continuous rail. You can see that. And then you're ready to get the slide back on. In order to get all this back together, it can be a little bit tricky. The spring is the most difficult part. I'll demonstrate that as well here for you in a second. But first it's worth noting that this piece that kind of swivels forward and back, that is the piece that interacts and kind of locks the barrel and the top of the slide really, or the barrel at least, to the slide. We need to keep this piece sort of up like that in order to get the spring reinserted. So we'll try to maintain that as we try to feed this very floppy spring back in. Again, this is probably the most tricky. Of course, you got to have the bushing back on. It's not going to work without that. This is probably the most tricky part of reassembling the gun. It works. It'll work every time, but it's, you know, a little bit frustrating because there's just no, as you can see, there's no sort of real guide rod to guide that spring back into place. So you're trying to use your fingers, and it's just, it requires a lot of dexterity and sometimes a lot of patience. As you can see, it didn't work right there. So you just kind of have to guide it back in and then have a way to be ready to retain it once you have it in that right spot. So I'm holding it in the right spot. I believe it looks like it's going to retain. Looks like we've got a good mating going on right there. Those pieces are locked up where they're supposed to be. And I think we're ready to get this slide and barrel back on the frame. So let's try to do that now. Holding it like so. We get the frame back on like that. Bring it all the way forward. And there we go. Not too bad. That was, I've had harder times reassembling this gun. The hole, you want to make sure that that is lined up, so you make sure you see some daylight on the other side. You won't be able to see that as well as I can, but get that pin through there, lock that into place. You can see it popping out the other side. Go ahead and get your non-marring tool of whatever type you have. Slide that back into place until it clips over the pin, and you are reassembled. Shoots an interesting caliber. It's got some interesting history and characteristics and design to it. And I personally think it's pretty awesome. Again, if you're into historic guns, you'll probably dig this a lot. But what are some practical modern applications for a gun?